quarterback is in for the Patriots. Check out, it's going to be TreVeyon Henderson.
There you go.
So the running back. It's not Jalen Knoll. I was really getting my heart set on him, but there is a lot to like about TreVeyon Henderson, who Brian Hoyer did a tremendous job of breaking down on our wide receivers and weapons podcast we did a little bit ago. But we're going to take a look at some TreVeyon Henderson clips when we get them up. But initial reaction to the draft of TreVeyon Henderson from Ohio State.
This is a pick that is going to make Drake May's life a lot easier. He is explosive, Tom, as all get out. 4.40 40 kind of speed, 38.5-inch vertical, 10'8" broad jump. He is a ridiculous athlete at the position. 5'10", 200 pounds, so he's big enough. And you're going to watch him. He has very sure hands. When you get him in a screen sort of situation, he has the ability to do this. Take it to the house anytime he touches the football. He was able to do that for the national champions. My guess is he'll be able to do that at the NFL level as well. There are some questions about his durability, dealt with a little bit of injury. And again, he's not the biggest human being on the planet. And so you're not going to ask him, in my opinion, to be a 3-down back out of the chutes as an NFL player, but he doesn't have to be here in New England. You have Rhamondre Stevenson, you have Antonio Gibson. Those guys are bigger bodied, 220-plus pound kinds of backs. This guy is your complement. He is your receiver out of the backfield. He is the kind of player that Josh McDaniels has turned into an incredibly productive option for a long, long time here in New England. And Tom, I would say maybe outside of Dion Lewis, who at his height was a ridiculous athlete in his own right, this is the most physically talented running back Josh McDaniels has had when it comes to this particular role, which I would say is a sub-back, speed back, pace back, whatever you want to call it, kind of complementary third down back role. The other thing about this player that you should love, that the Patriots love, I know, he is a freaking menace in pass protection, Tom. And so that's one area where you're not going to have to worry about him. He's coming from an advanced NFL-style offense, right? Chip Kelly's offense. And so he understands protections. And when he's asked to do it, he excels. He doesn't just die slow. That's what a lot of running backs are asked to do when they're asked to pass protect. Just give the quarterback an extra half second. He is taking the violence to the pass rushers, to your linebackers, to your defensive ends, and he is trying to bury them. He is trying to embarrass them, and he does. And there's tape of it. He's been used as a lead blocker at times for quarterback runs, which you could see happening with Drake May here in New England if Josh McDaniels wants to get creative in that way. So this is a really fun pick. This is another pick to help Drake May out. Give him a security blanket out of the backfield who has electricity to his game that not many running backs do.
All right, we have some live chat information from Buckets. He said you guys love the pick, which is great. We appreciate you guys being out there. We got a round of applause from all you guys. I can hear you. Very polite clapping. Not the kind of hooting and hollering you see from the New York Jets fans.
It sounds
nice,
like
polite clapping.
Yeah, like
from
a
them.
tennis tournament.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's in. He was a round 2 projection by Lance Zierlein. He had a comp to Aaron Jones. Some more stuff on TreVeyon Henderson. As I watch him run, you mentioned Dion Lewis. He has a build and a suddenness, a lateral suddenness that reminds me of Kevin Falk. And Josh McDaniels spent an inordinate amount of time with Kevin Falk in his time coming up in the period of time where Falk, really was here until 2011. Through that first Super Bowl. He didn't play in that one, but when you look at Kevin Falk, he was an absolute beast in blitz pickup. 5'8", a little more stout, 5'8", 200, probably not as escaping. And he was a 3-down back, too, as a smaller player. At LSU, he set every SEC record Kevin Falk did as a running back. So I'll be interested to hear Mike Vrabel weigh in on any similarities, if there are, to a player like Kevin Falk. Just to give you a quick synopsis from Lance Zierlein, NFL.com, Henderson is capable of starring on third downs or biting off a bigger chunk as a 3-down option. Average size, above average juice with good acceleration. Average decision maker inside, not overly creative once confronted by the defense, but has the pacing and subtle shiftiness to excel as an outside runner. Might be the best pass protecting running back in this draft, as Phil pointed out. Henderson isn't and more than capable as a pass catcher. Henderson isn't Jahmyr Gibbs, but he can operate in a similar role for teams looking to add a more dynamic player to their running back room. Let's talk about that running back room right now. Rhamondre Stevenson, Antonio Gibson, and now the complement that you have in TreVeyon Henderson. The Patriots in 2018, when they won their last Super Bowl, they did it on the strength of their very, very complementary running game with Sony Michel as their every down back. You had Dion Lewis as the pace back, but you also had Rex Burkhead as your toggle back and forth
and don't
back.
forget about James White, who I believe set a record in the postseason that year in the divisional round against
Lewis was out
against the Chargers.
Thank you.
So that is going to be, in my opinion, that will be his role. You're not going to ask him to replace Rhamondre Stevenson or Antonio Gibson, although both guys, to me, are not necessarily like locks to be big-time impact players for the Patriots moving forward. But his build is what it is. He's 5'10", 200 pounds. That, to me, is not an every down back. You're asking for trouble. But to me, again, especially in this offense, think about just all the production the Patriots have had out of pass-catching backs in the past, to be able to spread things out, to be able to hand it to him at times. I don't want to make him out to be only a pass-catching back, because you can hand it to him. He is so athletic and so explosive that if you can give him a crease and get him to the second level, he has a very good chance of making somebody miss and taking it another 10, 15, 20 yards. So I really like this pick. You and I were joking earlier on Early Edition tonight about don't get cute here. Don't get cute here. When I was a big proponent of fun, there's a difference between cute and fun. Cute to me is going off the radar to do something a little weird. This guy was predicted by some to be a first-round pick. So you're not getting cute. You're playing chestnut checkers, as our friend Mark the Beetle Bertrand likes to say. This is a keep it simple, stupid kind of pick. A guy this talented at this position to help your young quarterback falls to you. Go ahead and take him. And yes, to me, you still need another receiver, but maybe you can get that guy a little bit later and you can pick up some speed a little bit later. There are some really fast, bigger-bodied options that I think are going to be available even on day 3. You go ahead and you get a running back like this, and it could make a big impact in your offense.
A couple of the interesting aspects of him as a player, too, and as a guy, one director of scouting in the NFC told Lance Zierlein they love him in that program. He's unselfish, really productive, can play on all 3 downs, and is about the team first. So, again, a culture fit just like Will Campbell from Mike Vrabel's budding program here in New England. So, to me, I find it interesting. Again, what does it tell us about the leadership in New England? What direction are they going in? Rhamondre Stevenson got a fat contract last year coming off a down year. And we all ascribed it to, hey, he's got no time to make a move back there. He's getting hit the second he gets the ball. It's a wonder he even has positive yardage. But the 7 fumbles that he committed last year were definitely strikes against him in terms of how this regime is going to evaluate him. So we look at this, and we look at this program fit as well with Will Campbell, with now TreVeyon Henderson, with your Bobby Spillanes, with your Milton Williams, your Morgan Moses, those kinds of players. They seem to be staple players. Garrett Bradbury, too. So, you have outliers. I don't know how Stephon Diggs will do. I have a hunch that Diggs will meet them halfway. Luther Burden is the pick going to the Bears. So that's a wide receiver off the board. So Jalen Noel's still sitting there. Jalen Noel's still sitting there.
And maybe, listen, he's a smaller guy. And he's not a perfect prospect. As much as I like his game, he will not force missed tackles. If you're looking for somebody who's going to give you a ton after the catch, that's not going to be Jalen Noel. So maybe he'll be available a little bit later and the Patriots can have their cake and eat it too. I do want to give you a couple more notes on TreVeyon Henderson, Tom, that I think you're really going to like. I think Patriots fans are really going to like. 2 fumbles in 4 years. 2. And this is a guy who was incredibly productive and was used all the time. He's 5th on Ohio State's all-time rushing yards list. He's 7 yards behind Eddie George. So for him to have the number of carries that he had and just not, plain and simple, not fumble, those are the little things that Josh McDaniels, coming from that Bill Belichick school, Mike Vrabel, of course, any football coach is going to really love. So those little things, not fumbling. He was a team captain last year. It sounds like he was, even though he was a star of the team already, when Ohio State was considering adding Quinshon Judkins, who transferred, I believe, from Ole Miss, that could ruffle some feathers, right? If you're the established back and you want to go and add a star back in the transfer portal coming from the SEC, that might not go well for a lot of people. But apparently he was really open to the idea. They ended up splitting the workload, and both guys just ended up as high second-round picks. So it worked out, but it just tells you the kind of, hey, do whatever's best for the team here, coach. If you have to add a guy at my position in the portal, go ahead and do it. I'll be just fine. I think you have to like that attitude.
If you're going to play devil's advocate here and say, well, now you got a short arm tackle and a third down back, what's the counter to that?
big, long defensive ends that could not only get into the chest of a tackle, but maybe even jar a running back as he's getting out of the backfield to try to free and get himself open.
I guess what's the counter to the Felger line of thinking, which will be, oh, goody, you just got a short arm running back, short arm tackle, and now a third down back. How's that make you better immediately? You just got a couple of, broken toys.
You're going to make me talk to Felger when I don't actually have to talk to Felger?
Fair enough. He likes to pick. He likes to pick.
Listen, I think Felger probably would be for this. I feel like he likes pass-catching running backs. I feel like that has been part of his MO over time. They can be really productive if they're sure-handed and they're not going to fumble. The one, to me, the qualm with this pick would be, yeah, but you could have had another talented running back in like the fourth round. Mm-hmm. It's that good a class. I would say this is why he was on our list of best available players and why I believed that they would be really interested in him in the second round is he is that much better. He is that much easier projection because of the level of competition that he's coming from and because of what he's put on tape. And those little things that make him quote unquote safe, the ball security, the pass protection. Some other players in this class that are really talented, Bashal Tutin, who we talked about very briefly in an early edition from Virginia Tech. He's a little undersized, incredible speed, 4.3 speed, home run type of hitting running back, fumbles all the time. So these other backs, while talented, have warts that TreVeyon Henderson, in my opinion, does not.
You did a nice thing on your podcast. It was a nice thing on the preferred running backs that you've seen in your job as an analyst for NBC. Who are some of the preferred guys that you saw? And I want to start specifically with a guy that Hoyer was all hot and bothered about, TreVeyon Henderson.
Love him. He was hot and bothered in a good way or a bad way?
Oh, real good, real good.
Real good. I was going to say he's an outstanding back.
Straightening his pants, loosening his tie, the whole nine.
Yeah. I mean, he's a true 3-down back. He's a guy that can be in there on first, second, third down. He can run inside the tackles. He's got that explosive speed, great contact balance, can take it 60, but he can run tough in between the numbers. The thing that I love most about him, though, is his pass pickup. He takes pride in that. And you know that a guy's a football player at the running back position when he'll step up in the A-gap and take on a blitzing linebacker and just stonewall him. And if you turn on his film, you watch it, it's time and time again. So this kid takes pride in it.
John Sewer and Drain Cleaning is the name to know when the drains don't flow. Leave your drain pain to the experts. John Sewer is on call 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. They do the dirty jobs, so you don't have to. Visit their website today at johnsewer.com. John Sewer, they get the job done.
Patriots were not done on offense with their next pick. They selected Washington State wide receiver Kyle Williams. Came off a great 2024 season. He had nearly 1,200 yards receiving and 14 touchdowns. One of the best in the NCAA in scoring touchdowns. 5'11", 190. Good speed. Runs the 40 at 4.4. Big play threat, also a very effective route runner. Patriots also added late. I like this pick. Georgia center Jared Wilson in the third. Come in behind Garrett Bradbury, who's a free agent add. Welcome in, everybody. We got myself. We have Albert Breer from SI, Amazon, and we have the Senator Phil Perry, who is our draft guru. Boys, Phil's first. What are your impressions of the Patriots draft overall through the first 4 picks?
Yeah, we said before the first round started that this should be a weekend-long Christmas morning for Drake May, and that's exactly how it's played out. 4 picks, 4 offensive players, and the huddle around Drake May has gotten a lot more athletic, and with the 2 skill players they took tonight, a lot more explosive. So yesterday you had the big left tackle, you get your quarterback protected, then you had a security blanket out of the backfield who could take it to the house on just about any touch, which is something that TreVeyon Henderson proved while he was playing for the national champion Ohio State Buckeyes. And then Kyle Williams is electric. As an outside receiver, he's a little bit undersized, small hands, smaller frame, but when he has the ball in his hands, he's one of the best in the country and one of the best in this draft class specifically when it comes to yards after the catch per reception. So a lot more electricity in that offensive huddle around Drake May. He should be really happy after 2 days.
Yeah, I just look at it like, again, like Phil said, making the investment back into your young quarterback. And I also look at where these guys were picked. And I think that's generally for me, like I think the way that you have to look at these picks, because we don't know how they're going to play out over a 3 or 4 year period, but did they take them in the proper spot? Did it look like they had command of the way the draft was going league-wide? And it does seem like with every one of these picks, they either picked them after they were expected or after they were expected to be picked or right around that range. And I mean, TreVeyon Henderson very easily could have gone 20 to Denver. He could have gone 26 to the Rams if they hadn't traded out. I tend to trust the offensive coaches who are in charge of those two places that really liked him. And then I think Kyle Williams is drafted right around where he was supposed to be drafted there in the 3rd round. And the center, Jared Wilson, I said this to you off the air, Tom. I think in this draft, the way a lot of people saw it, you had 5 tackles that were above the line, and you had 5 interior linemen that were above the line. And you got the last of the interior linemen, the last of those 10 linemen, way below where the rest of them went. So this felt to me like, and we can talk about who's in charge or whatever. Sure. I'm kind of sick of that argument. But whoever was in charge had command of the draft, I think, because these guys were picked where the league saw them.
Yeah, and don't forget that Jared Wilson pick, that was made after a trade down. So they were able to add some additional capital and still get one of the best interior linemen in the class.
Yeah, at an area of need, a sneaky need, too. Center is for the New England Patriots, too, with Garrett Bradbury, a veteran player who comes in as a free agent, but he's not on a long-term contract either. I look at it and I say, hey, what the Patriots did here was start to develop an offensive core around Drake May. Let's look at that core real quick. You think about it, you got Drake May, you have Will Campbell, you have Williams now, Kyle Williams, you have Henderson, you have Jared Wilson, and I would add Caden Wallace and Layden Robinson. Those guys are not useless. They were 3rd and 4th round picks last year. So you have something in those players that you can build that core that I've been hammering them for not developing. You can't keep with the spackle. You need to add some wallboard. All right. We want you to join the conversation by voting in our poll. What grade would you give the Patriots draft so far? You can scan the QR code or vote at NBCSportsBoston.com. You see your options right there. I love watching it develop.
Oh,
just watching those bars bounce up and down, up and down.
I love what. Oh, there, Felger is pounding the C button. All right.
Felger's not in because F is at 0 still.
Yeah, that's a great point. Let's stick a little bit, if we could, then, with our guy, Henderson. When you look at this, I guess the one question I would have would be, what does that mean for the Patriots running back room in general? Not who's going out, but where is his fit, Phil?
Yeah, I look at him as a complementary piece. I don't think right now, at this moment, though he did this for Ohio State, is a 3-down back. He's 5'11", just over 200 pounds. He is not a 220-pound hammer that you want to put between the tackles 25 times a game. But as a receiver, as a pass protector, as somebody that you could give the football to as a runner in critical situations, the guy hasn't fumbled in over 2 years. And he only had 2 drops over the course of the last 2 seasons. So he is really sure-handed. He is really dependable. And in pass protection, he is a menace. He is looking to punish people. So the fact that he can be, yes, this home run hitter out of the backfield, especially as a receiver, Josh McDaniels is going to love to play with him in that regard. He's also going to do all the little things that's going to allow him to earn the trust from that coaching staff, Bert, that will get him on the field and get him on the field quickly.
Yeah, I obviously watched a lot of this guy over the last few years. And like like the pass protection thing is very real. I will retweet. I tweeted out something on his pass protection earlier, this reel where he just lights like defensive end after linebacker after blitzer up, play after play after play. So that to me is important because that's how you get on the field, right? Like, and people don't want to pay attention to that.
Just
when
be trustworthy
when you're drafting a running back. But if you're going to put him out there, 2nd and long, 3rd and long, you have to be able to trust him to pass protect. And so he's got that box checked, which means he should be able to get in the game quickly. One of the reasons why I think some of these teams valued him, and you saw, I think, a very real possibility that he could have gone in the 1st round, is because people saw what Detroit got out of Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, this guy isn't quite the same as Gibbs. Gibbs is a better route runner. This guy might actually be a little bit faster and more explosive than Gibbs, which is, really saying something. But they're the same type of player, and one of the things that he really helped himself with at his pro day, so in Chip Kelly's offense, there isn't a lot of route running for the running back. So at his pro day, they had him run routes, and I know that's one thing that impressed the coaches and scouts that were there. So he's shown he can do it, right? Like that's something that he can develop. Again, Phil's right, like, This is a guy who became more effective at Ohio State when they brought in Quinshon Judkins, who was drafted by the Browns in the second round from Ole Miss. So that allowed them to spell him and use him in spots. And, if you want to go down the illustrious list of third down backs that Josh McDaniels had here over the years, I think that's the vision. Kevin Falk, Shane Vereen, Danny Woodhead, James White, that type of player.
And I look at his build and his lateral quickness as being, to me, similar to Kevin Falk. Kevin Falk was shorter. Kevin Falk was more stout. Kevin Falk in the SEC at LSU, when he left LSU, he was a career leader in yards from scrimmage and also rushing yards, if I'm not mistaken. But to me, he didn't develop as a player until he became an absolute beast as a pass protector, and that's when the Patriots trusted him. 5'11", 190, that's the size and weight, 4.4 40. 3 years at UNLV, 2 at Washington State, 70 receptions, 1,200 yards in 13 games, 4th in the FBS last season with 14 receiving touchdowns. And Phil and I discussed Kyle Williams' game with former Patriots quarterback Brian Hoyer in the film room.
Let's talk Kyle Williams from Washington State. 4.40 speed, undersized, but can do a variety of different things. He showed that at Washington State. He was an explosive play waiting to happen. Incredible work after the catch. One of the best in this year's draft class when it came to his yards after catch per reception in 2024, Brian.
Yeah, like you mentioned, he's a little more slight in frame, but you see right here, breaks a few tackles, is tough with the ball, obviously has the speed, good size. To me, this is a guy who's strictly an outside player based on the route trees that I've seen him run, but he's a guy who could take the top off the defense, that's for sure.
That's interesting to me. So what are you looking for when you're looking for either slot or outside specific? Because his frame would suggest, boy, he's a slot.
Yeah.
But if you see something that tells you just outside, tell us why.
Yeah, it's not always size. It's the way they work in the middle of the field. To me, that's a big part. At least when I'm thinking of the Patriots offense, I'm thinking of guys who have some shiftiness to him. Now he has a good little cut there, but mainly when I watched his film, it was a lot of vertical moving routes. And to me, if you're going to play in the slot, you got to be able to move horizontally across the ball, get separation. I'm not saying he can't do it, but to me, I think this guy is more of an X receiver. And the one thing about him, because he doesn't have that size, like we're not talking about Tet or Jaden Higgins where he's going to go up and catch those 50-50 balls. He may beat you with speed, and as you mentioned, Tom, Drake throws a great deep ball down over the field, but if you have a guy who's a little bit bigger, you feel more comfortable like he's going to come down with it.
It's a really interesting point that you raised, Tom, because I know, or Brian raised the point, but I know at the Senior Bowl, they did want to see him in the slot a little bit more. And so I think they had him doing some of these more, these change of direction types of routes. And he appeared to impress. A lot of good shake at the line of scrimmage and ability to sort of free himself from coverage. So do you like the potential fit for a guy like this, Tom, in their offense?
Well, I look at a guy at 5'11", 190, and that's basically the same dimensions as Kayshon Boutte, who I think also lives on thin ice to an extent with this team. He was a 6th-round pick, didn't play as a rookie last year. He was probably their most productive player. But I still think that they're looking to upgrade every single spot that's not manned by Stephon Diggs. Interesting pick with Kyle Williams. So you saw the explosiveness, you saw the acceleration, especially the after the catch acceleration, the ability to split defenses and make a quick decision and say, I'm going. It's kind of similar to TreVeyon Henderson when you saw him splitting defenses. But the question that we have, and the guy that we talked about a ton, was Jalen Noel. And Phil, he was still on the board when the Patriots picked.
Why do you think the Patriots opted for Kyle Williams instead of Jalen Noel, who ended up going to Houston, and Nick Caserio?
Nick Caserio and Nick Caley, who's the offensive coordinator there now in Houston, obviously has Patriots connections and Josh McDaniels connections. So to me, the reason why you might go Kyle Williams over Jalen Noel is the pure speed factor and the ability to win down the field. As Brian Hoyer said, he's more of an X receiver. He could probably live on the outside and be more of a safety threatening kind of boundary receiver. I think if you were to go with Noel, you'd be taking somebody who's maybe a little bit more polished as a route runner, somebody you might trust in the short to intermediate area a little bit more. The reason I liked Noel and the reason why I was told Noel seemed like a good fit for the Patriots offense is because he could do a little bit of everything. I think he's the more versatile option. He ran a 4.39 40. Kyle Williams ran 4.40. So basically right around the same in terms of their straight line speed. He could give you a little bit as a vertical player, but also do some of that underneath stuff and some of those juke routes and those shake routes that you've seen Josh McDaniels call for his wideouts for many, many years now. So Kyle Williams maybe has a little bit more juice. Noel would be maybe the more polished option is how I would break it down.
It does sound like there's a lot of polish that has to occur still with Kyle Williams. Just looking at some of the breakdowns, Dane Brugler, who writes The Beast, he's terrific for The Athletic. Number of things, and these are just nits to pick, just to have the conversation, because Kyle Williams, obviously, he's a third-round pick. Yeah. Okay, he's not a first-round pick. He's a third-round pick. So there are going to be nits to pick. But he says, unassuming size, strength, and body bulk, small hands, and will have the occasional concentration drop. And he also needs some work getting off the line and working on his stems. Albert?
Yeah, and it seems like, and again, like I'm just kind of asking around with a few people about him now. You know, like the hands have been an issue and a consistency thing. And sometimes you can work on those things, and sometimes it's natural, and you're just going to have to deal with a drop now and then. We'll see which category he falls into. I do think, you know, you do see adding a big play element to the offense on two levels here. And I think ideally, if you look at the big picture vision for something like this, I think the idea is that you're threatening downfield, you're pulling the defense downfield, even if you're not throwing it downfield constantly, you're forcing them to respect you downfield. I think Diggs does that to a degree, not as much as he used to, but to a degree, he'll do it too. And then that can create space underneath, not only for Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper to work, but for TreVeyon Henderson to run in space. And so I think like when you put the pieces together, the second round pick with the third round pick, you can see a bigger picture vision for what they're trying to do offensively.
Yeah, and even though, Tom, I don't want to paint Kyle Williams as just sort of a one-trick pony, as a down-the-field guy.
Sure.
He did lead the country in terms of this year's draft class in yards after catch per reception, almost 8.5 yards after the catch per reception. So he is the kind of guy you could throw a little flare screen, little bubble screen to, and if he makes one person miss, he could be off and running and take it to the house. So that kind of explosiveness, you know, similar to Henderson in that way. These are guys that, if you can get the football in their hands, they're a threat to score. So that has to be one of the attractive aspects to Kyle Williams' game as well.
I mean, just texting with another AFC coordinator, he said, loved him. He can play inside and outside. He's a little on the smaller side, but he can fly. Great burst.